Hello and Happy New Year 2009. 2008 will be remembered as the year of corporate bailouts, and for college football fans, it may also be remembered as the year dissatisfaction with the BCS system finally reached its boiling point. With that in mind, we present you with this bailout for the BCS system. While President-elect Obama and others have called for a playoff system, we here at the BCS Solution understand that the playoff systems commonly proposed would be bad for the sport. They would be detrimental to the most exciting regular season in all of sports and the bowl season, which is as rich in tradition as it is in dollars. There are a host of other arguments against the commonly proposed playoff systems, including the physical and mental demands an 8 or 16 team playoff would place on the amateur student athletes. And while a +1 system, for example, would seem to be a good plan when there are 3 or 4 teams that distinguish themselves from the rest, it wouldn't work in a year where there are 5 or more teams with an even record. And how do you really determine who earns the playoff spots? We would just be taking the current problem and making it bigger. And there are other opportunities for improvement that are simply not addressed by most playoff systems. For example, there are currently too many lopsided matchups, and wouldn't it be great if we had a system in place that actually measured the relative strength of each conference? What we really need is a solution that addresses all these opportunities without compromising the values of all the BCS stakeholders, including the universities, the players, the sponsors, and the fans. That solution is presented here as a two-step process. Step 1, there are currently 119 teams in the BCS, so we'll add 1 to make it an even 120. Divide those 120 teams into 10 conferences with 12 teams in each. Divide each conference into 2 6-team divisions, and divide the 10 conferences into 2 regions, with 5 conferences in the East region and 5 in the West. We'll get back to this later in the presentation to explain exactly how that will look. Step 2, restructure the regular season to include 7 regular season games, followed by a conference playoff game, a regional round-robin tournament, and then the traditional bowl season. Each team starts with 2 games outside their division, followed by 1 game against each of the other 5 teams within their division. The results of these first 7 games will determine the ranking within each division from number 1 to number 6. The 8th game of the season will be the conference playoff. The number 1 team in each division will square off against the number 1 team from the other division to determine the conference champion and runner-up. The number 2 team from each division will play to determine 3rd and 4th place. The number 3 team plays number 3, the number 4 team plays number 4, and so on to rank each conference from number 1 through number 12. That brings us to games 9 through 12, which will be a round-robin tournament against all the other conferences within your region. The number 1 team from each conference plays each of the other 4 number 1 teams. The number 2 teams all play each other, as do the number 3 teams, all the way down to the number 12 teams, so you have even strength matchups all the way through the season. The results of these round robins will determine who plays in the BCS championship game, with the top team from the East playing against the top team from the West. The other bowl games will make their selections like they currently do. Tiebreakers within each division will be similar to current conference tiebreakers. The end-of-season tiebreakers will be determined by head-to-head result, then by the head-to-head result of the entire conference, then by the overall record of the entire conference. This will reward strong conferences and give all teams more incentive to keep winning even if they're individually out of bowl contention. This is an example of what a preseason schedule would look like under this system. If I'm going too fast, feel free to replay the video and pause it on the screens at which you'd like to take a longer look. This system will do a better job of determining the champions than either the current system or any of the other proposed playoff systems. It would create more even strength matchups, making the regular season even stronger than it is today, rather than making it weaker like most playoff systems would. It would eliminate inconsistencies between the conferences and measure the relative strength of each conference, thereby giving all teams additional incentive to keep fighting to the very end. It doesn't force any teams to play more than 13 games, and perhaps most importantly, it will silence the critics who are calling for a playoff system that would be detrimental to the sport. As promised earlier, this is what the conferences would look like. The Big 12, SEC, ACC, MAC, and Conference USA already have 12 teams with 2 6-team divisions, so they're all good to go. We'll add Notre Dame to the Big 10 and redistribute a few other teams amongst the other conferences as you see here. The East region will consist of the ACC, the Big East, the Big 10, the SEC, and the MAC. The West region will be the Big 12, the Mountain West, the Pac-10, Conference USA, and the combined Sun Belt Western Athletic Conference. If you're thinking your region looks tougher than the other, trust me, fans from the other region are thinking the same thing. Again, feel free to replay this video to study it closer as often as you like and send the link to all your friends and enemies. Thank you for viewing the BCS Solution.